Hey everyone, it's Nick here with you with the rock album review for the 10th studio album from Foo Fighters. It's called Medicine at Midnight. Medicine at Midnight is a follow-up to 2017's Concrete and Gold. It was originally supposed to come out in 2020, but as we know, the COVID-19 pandemic came along and pretty much ruined everything for everyone, including the Foo Fighters, who had to push back the release of the album and cancel their 25th anniversary van tour that they had scheduled, which was due to come here to my hometown of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. They had to cancel that. So it was a bad year for the Foo Fighters, but you know what? They decided to kind of throw us a lifeline and release some new music to keep us going into this pandemic in 2021. And I'm happy to say that Medicine at Midnight is absolutely 100% fantastic. Medicine at Midnight was once again produced by Greg Kurstin, who produced Concrete and Gold in 2017. And if you saw the rock album ranking video I did of the Foo Fighters albums, you probably heard that I said that his production on that album was really harsh and abrasive, and it was really hard to listen to. So I had some concerns going into Medicine at Midnight, but I'm happy to say that the production on this album is great. The Foo Fighters themselves sound amazing. They sound really tight on this album, like a really tight unit. Like they got into a small room and just kind of pressed record on a really awesome set of groovy and rocky songs. So they sound phenomenal. The production on this album sounds phenomenal. And let's get into the songs themselves, because there is a lot to dig into and a lot of great stuff to like about this record. The album kicks off with a song called Making a Fire. Now this is an album opener. It really sets the tone for this record. Dave Grohl mentioned in some interviews leading up to this album that this was going to be a party record. The Foo Fighters have done all sorts of genres over the years. Obviously, we know they've done rock, they've done kind of middle of the road acoustic stuff, they've done heavy metal, they've done everything. And Dave Grohl said, well, we've never really made a party album, and from the get-go with the song Making a Fire, it's a party record. I was a little bit concerned when I first heard the first single from this album called Shame Shame, which we'll get to in a second. It's a cool song, but it doesn't really go anywhere, and I didn't quite understand how that song fit into the overall vibe that Dave Grohl said this album was going to have. But with the song called Making a Fire, I'm happy to say that it kicks off with a bang. This is a great song. The backing vocals, the melodies, again, it mixes together the things that you love about Foo Fighters, at least the things I love about Foo Fighters, which is, the hard rock guitars, the pounding drums. Everything is great in that respect, but they also, the melodies, right? This has so many different kinds of melodies. It's got the melodic kind of thing that you expect from Dave Grohl. His voice sounds amazing on this album. On Concrete and Gold with a song called T-Shirt, I thought, oh, that should be a great opening song, but I was a little disappointed. But Foo Fighters have managed to really kick this album off in style with a song called Making a Fire. I love this track. Then we're moving into the first single from Medicine at Midnight. It's called Shame Shame. This song didn't really sell me when I first heard it. It's a great melody, it's a great song, but it doesn't really go anywhere. You expect it to maybe kind of blow up in the middle of the track where it's going to become this big, kind of huge rock song. It doesn't really get there for me, but I understand why it's on this album. After you listen to the opening track, Making a Fire, which is this great big party album song that Dave Grohl said it would be, it kind of dips down a little bit into Shame Shame, but it makes sense within the context of the record, because after Shame Shame, you got all these, again, big rock party songs. So Shame Shame is kind of a nice little groovy interlude to kind of, vary up the vibe of this album. So I didn't really like it when I first heard it, but within the context of Medicine at Midnight, I really do like Shame Shame. It's a nice groovy little track. Then we're moving into the song called Cloud Spotter. It kicks off with a really tight guitar riff from Chris Shiflett or Pat Smear or Dave Grohl or whoever's playing it on the guitar. It continues the party vibe album thing that Dave Grohl was saying this Medicine at Midnight was going to have. And it's another great song. Cloud Spotter is a tight little rock song. It kicks a lot of ass and it keeps the album going. It keeps the party going. And I really dug that track as well. Then we're moving into one of the other singles from this album, Waiting on a War. This is different from the rest of the album. Just as Shame Shame is a little bit different. Waiting on a War, I think, is the big rock ballad of the album. Every rock album needs to have that radio ballad. And Dave Grohl said that song is about, growing up in Washington, D.C. in that area and thinking that, a war was going to be kicking off every day during the Cold War in the 80s. And he kind of goes a little bit political on it, but not overtly political. He's kind of talking about his history. He's talking about his own experience without throwing it in your face too much. And it's the big rock ballad of the album. I dig this song. I like Waiting on a War. It's another plus for Medicine at Midnight. Then we're going into the title track from this record, Medicine at Midnight, and the title of this song pretty much describes what kind of track it is. It is very much a a groovy kind of dark rock track for Medicine at Midnight, whatever your medicine may be at that time of the evening. This song definitely fits that vibe. It sounds like Medicine at Midnight, and it's a good little middle album rock track that keeps things going while still varying up the different styles that the Foos are doing on this album. The next song on this album is called Holding Poison, which is a great rock song in the vein of something you might have heard on Wasting Light or Echo Silence, Patience and Grace. It gives me a little bit of an older Foo Fighters vibe, which is still very, very cool. Super catchy song. The thing about a lot of the melodies on this album, from a songwriting perspective, at least from my perspective as a songwriter, is that Dave Grohl takes the songs in an upward direction. So you got your verse, you got your chorus, but then you might get a really awesome post-chorus that comes after that, which then takes the song into the stratosphere. Another band that does that a lot is Biffy Clyro from Scotland. They do a lot of songs like that where it's just kind of like, it's like a staircase and it's going up and it's getting better and better and better, and Holding Poison definitely has that kind of structure to it, and that is why I think a lot of the songs at Medicine at Midnight are better than some of the stuff that the Foo Fighters have done for over a decade. Then we get into a softer song on this album. It's called Chasing Birds, and this song reminds me of something like Walking After You or Iron Rooster from the Saint Cecilia EP. It's a calming, really, really nice rock track, and that's the thing about Foo Fighters that they do better than anyone. They can rock out better than anyone, and then they can take it down and do an acoustic ballad that you can just kind of float away mentally while you're listening to it. It's a really, really nice song. I love Chasing Birds. A really nice change for Foo Fighters, and a nice little penultimate track going into the last song on the album. And the ninth and final track on Medicine at Midnight is called Love Dies Young. This is a fantastic Foo Fighters song. Reminds me a lot of Walk from Wasting Light. It's a great, positive, fist in the air, anthemic rock song, which is one of my favorite genres of rock, which is what the Foo Fighters do so well. I love high energy rock and roll, and Foo Fighters really provide it on Love Dies Young. It's a great rock track. Like I said, it sounds like Walk, which is not a bad comparison at all, and it's a great, great finale to a great record. I really, really love Love Dies Young. And those are the 9 tracks on Medicine at Midnight. Now, initially I thought the Foo Fighters might be shortchanging us by only putting 9 songs on a record. I don't know why it bothers me when bands do that, but it feels like really you couldn't just put like 1 extra song on there to make it a 10-song album. Even better, 11 songs. I think 12 songs might be too long, but they kept it tight. With Concrete and Gold, which is a great album, has some really, really strong songs on it. It's a little bit unfocused, especially when you're listening to Medicine at Midnight. Concrete and Gold is a little bit unfocused, and towards the end of the album it drags a little bit, which is the case with a lot of rock records. But with the Foo Fighters, they're keeping it tight. They said this is a party album. They want to keep it tight. They want to keep it fun. So initially I thought that they were shortchanging us with only 9 songs on this album, but now I realize that 9 songs on Medicine at Midnight is just right. So those are my thoughts on the new album from Foo Fighters, Medicine at Midnight. I think that this is maybe their best effort since Wasting Light. So that's, 10 years ago now. I think this is some of the best material Foo Fighters have done in a long, long time. Not to say that the stuff they've done in the 2010s wasn't worthwhile, because Sonic Highways and Concrete and Gold are still great records, but there's just something about Medicine at Midnight that stands apart and makes me really confident to be a Foo Fighters fan going into the 2020s. It's hard to believe that they've been around that long, 25 plus years, and I'm happy to say that going into a new decade, Foo Fighters are strong. They're sounding great. This album is a huge, huge release for them, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm going to give Medicine at Midnight a solid 9 out of 10. And that is it for my rock album review for the new Foo Fighters album called Medicine at Midnight. Let me know what you thought of the record in the comments below. Make sure to like this video. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you know every time we release a new video. And make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of the action and the rock album stuff that we're doing here on the channel. And if you didn't watch it, I'll provide a link for you as well for the rock album ranking video I did of all the past Foo Fighters albums from their first 9 studio albums. I have a feeling that Medicine at Midnight, if I was going to put it into that ranking, would probably get up on the list pretty high, but I guess I'll have to do another video in the future so we can re-rank the albums. But for now, you can check out my rock album ranking of Foo Fighters albums, and make sure you pick up or stream or whatever. I think you should buy this album properly. The new album from Foo Fighters, Medicine at Midnight. Make sure you check it out. It's a great record. So we'll see you guys again on the Rock Album Review channel. Have a good one.